boys and girls, hey, welcome back to another week of Bird Coverage, your weekly and daily fantasy gurus. That's right, I am calling us gurus. I'm your host, Joel.
I'm Guru Curtis.
And right now we're going to cover some tight ends.
Hey, nothing I like better than covering some tight ends.
Well, then why don't you start off? Hey-yo.
Great. Well, now it's just going to seem weird when I talk about a bunch of guys.
My tight pants.
And the first guy, thank the Lord, I have a bright spot to speak of, and someone I've been touting for quite a while now. My tight end value play this week is Austin Safarian-Jenkins. Did not disappoint in week 1 while everyone else around him did disappoint. 2 touchdowns, 110 yards. He looked like the big physical receiver everybody has been playing him up as. Last year he was injured, this year he's not. And Jameis Winston has a history of throwing to his tight end, threw to his tight end in his last season at Florida State more than any other college quarterback threw to their tight end. So this is just obviously a match made in heaven, especially for fantasy. And as we've seen, the Bucs line isn't very good, so defenses are getting through it. And Winston has to go to his safety blanket. And here we go again. Tampa's playing a much more difficult offensive opponent in New Orleans. But New Orleans defense is a touch suspect. I would say they're still probably better than the Titans defense, but on the road, Winston has something to prove. They're going to be throwing, they're going to be down, and who better to throw to than your 6'5", 250 tight end, especially if Mike Evans doesn't play this week. And the best part about Austin Safarian-Jenkins is DraftKings and FanDuel both have him very cheap. FanDuel is a complete non-believer in Austin Safarian-Jenkins, going for $4,500. Try to find another tight end that had any production in that range of $4,500. It's very difficult to do. DraftKings is $4,100, so I think this is quite a value play and probably one of the safer tight end plays of the week.
I think I have a safer tight end play for you. I'm going to go Jordan Reed of the Washington Redskins. Yes, they're playing the suddenly amazing St. Louis Rams defense. But the thing with how I'm going about this is Deshaun Jackson is hurt. He's out. Pierre Garçon is a nice receiver, but I think that Kirk Cousins really likes to also rely on his tight ends, and Jordan Reed has proved it in the past, and I really think he's going to be the biggest beneficiary of Jackson's injury. Jackson with the hamstring injury, so he's out for a month, I believe. And especially in an even cheaper price, $3,700 on DraftKings. He's going for $5,000 on FanDuel. One of the cheapest tight ends. And granted, he had an okay week last week, but with the injury to Jackson, I really think with the pass rush of St. Louis, it's going to be dumped off City, and Jordan Reed's going to be the recipient.
And I think it's really one of the things about last week, because it was so tight end heavy, and there's just a ton of production of the tight end position. And the Dolphins-Redskins games wasn't really a marquee matchup. I feel like maybe he kind of got lost in the shuffle with all these other tight ends. So this is a guy who's every game he's played with Cousins has drawn a ton of targets. Last week was no different. And he's actually, and besides just being there, he's a talented receiver. He can make plays. His touchdown was a really nice play when he got into the end zone last week. I would expect him to easily get 10 targets this week.
Wow, I wouldn't go that high, but
I think that's what he had last week. And with
did he have that many targets last week?
I know he had 6 catches last week. I have some notes on him here. 7 catches, 11 targets.
Even better.
He had 63 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then a small note, I wouldn't take too much into this, but I will mention it. The Rams did have a lot of problem last week guarding Seattle's tight ends. I know it's Jimmy Graham.
Well, I mean, I don't think Jimmy Graham had a great game last week.
He had a touchdown. He was getting open, but there were some timing issues of what I saw. And I don't think that's going to... I think actually at this point in their careers, Cousins and Reed as a connection probably have more chemistry than
obviously
than Graham and Russell Wilson.
So there you have it, Jordan Reed.
And I know these are two, we've already mentioned two tight ends we like, and this might be the year of the tight end if week 1 is any indication. But I have another tight end that I feel like a lot of people are going to be playing. I'm not the person that says don't play guys that everybody else is playing. Get the points where you can. If you are certain that you're going to get points, get them. And I'm going to be getting my points this week at tight end with Jason Witten. Jason Witten is Tony Romo's BFF, and maybe more. They've just got a weird chemistry going on there in Dallas. You know what they say about Texas, but I'll leave that out. Jason Witten is a Hall of Fame tight end, probably the second best tight end of his generation. Maybe third, you can throw Gates in, including Tony Gonzalez and his generation thing here. Jason Witten had 2 touchdowns last week, had the game winner last week. Everyone on the sidelines telling him, you're the best, and he might be. He is playing in Philly, who is pretty good against the tight end. However, there aren't a lot of targets. There are a lot of targets to go around since Des Bryant is out, and the rest of their receiving crew are guys like Cole Beasley, Devin Street, who I heard of for the first time in a Roto World update today. And then you'll probably see Lance Dunbar, who I think is actually a good running back, sleeper pick. Probably see him coming in the backfield. But there's and then Terrence Williams, who's a cheaper guy too, but isn't really the consistent possession receiver that Witten is. I think Witten's another guy, double-digit targets, easily a red zone target, obviously throughout his career and last week. I think Jason Witten is a really safe play. Even for his price, he's a little more expensive because he is a named tight end. 4,300 in DraftKings, 6,000 in FanDuel. I actually have Jason Witten as a flex player in DraftKings.
I don't know. I really think that Jason Witten is one of the most overrated fantasy tight ends in the history of fantasy football. He's a great real life football player, but he's really so boom or bust in fantasy that with the onslaught of the tight ends so far this season, I think there are better options, and I don't think that the Cowboys are going to really try to attack the Eagles that way. I really think that with the success that Tavon Coleman had last week against them, I really think they're going to try to pound it out and get to a ball control game against the Eagles, which is really the only way to stay in the game with the Philadelphia Eagles offense. So I'm going to have to say, no, you're completely wrong and ridiculous.
Completely wrong and ridiculous.
Completely wrong.
All-star tight end.
Double-digit targets? There's no way. If he hits 5 targets, I'll be shocked.
No way on double-digit targets.
No way in hell.
All right, we saw it here. We'll
side bet.
Yeah, we'll discuss the money implications of said bet later. But yeah, Jason Witten. I mean, this is who else they have. You know, the Chargers have Darius Green, but they have Woodhead, they have Keenan Allen, they have Stevie Johnson. It seems like almost all the other teams. I mean, Reed is probably the only other guy without a lot of people around him.
I don't know. As much as it kills me to say, I think this is, if it's not going to be the running back by committee that Dallas has now, I think it's going to be a Terrence Williams game. I really do. He's shown up in the past, granted not on a consistent basis, but I think that's where the targets are going to go.
Yeah, I just never seen the possession thing. It always seems like he's been their go deep guy a lot of times.
Well, I think that's also another way to attempt to get past the secondary of the Eagles. Go deep.
Joel, you have a tight end for us?
I absolutely do. So my second tight end this week is I'm going to go Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to go Zach Ertz. So Zach Ertz had a decent game last week. He caught 3 of 8 targets for 46 yards. Not the greatest game, but Zach Ertz didn't play the entire preseason. He had very minimal practice time due to the sports hernia surgery that he had. And he was nobody was really sure that he was even going to play last week. But he did show up and had a strong game. And so now that I think he's fully healthy and with a full week of practice, I think Zach Ertz is going to be the man for Sam Bradford down the seam, especially against the very, very vulnerable Dallas secondary, especially with the injury to pass rusher rookie Randy Gregory. I think that Bradford will have tons of time to find Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is a human specimen at 6'4", and I think he was coming in like 240. Former basketball player. So yeah, Zach Ertz.
My only thing, Ertz is actually a guy that I'm looking at too for his prices, 3,600, 5,200. Had 7 targets last week, but I haven't seen the game. Oh, 8 targets? Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the game out of him. You know, I haven't seen the Zach Ertz explosion game.
There has been a lot of hype. He has definitely been more hype than what he's shown, but he has all the tools. The only problem has been his blocking. That's why you've seen a lot more Brent Selleck in the last year and a half than I think most people expected. But Brent Selleck is one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. But Zach Ertz specifically has been concentrating on his blocking, and the word on the street is that his blocking is so improved that once he got healthy, now you're going to see a lot more of him.
All right. Well, thanks for joining in for the tight end segment for Week 2 of the NFL. I'm Curtis.
And I'm Joel.
And good luck this week, and we'll see you next week.
Make money, money, make money, money.